Welcome to the Sideline. I'm Andy Katz. Well, this is going to be a home for a lot of original content in college sports and beyond. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot of that similar content that I produce for NCAA platforms, Big Ten Network, and other places. But I needed a home for a lot of those interviews with the newsmakers in this space. So where are you going to find it? Right here at the Sideline. Let's get to it. And welcome, everyone, to a summer chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by St. John's' Bryce Hopkins. And Bryce, first off, most importantly, how are you feeling?
Yep, I feel really good right now. I'm in a great space. I'm 100% healthy, and the workouts have been going good. And I'm just in here building chemistry with the guys, but I feel really good right now.
So let's go back to the sort of the rehab of that knee. At what point did you feel, because the ACL injury would have been, I guess, it'll be 2 years in January, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it was January of 24,
23, 23,
23,
23.
23. Okay. So, yeah, we're in 25. So 23. So how long did it take before you felt, because you only ended up playing 3 games
Yeah.
last season at Providence. How long did it take before you felt like you could even be out there? And obviously then you had to shut it down again.
Yeah, I would say about at the 11th or 12th month mark, I was starting to feel good and that I could get back out there and play. Like you said, I did come back. I believe it was like our 11th game. It was against BYU was our first game over at Providence, and the first 3 games went good. In the third game back against DePaul, I actually suffered a bone bruise in the back of my knee, which I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I had to sit out for another month. And at that time, it was already halfway through the season, and had to make a business decision at that point. So the rehab process, it was up and down battle, but it went. I feel like God gives his battles to the toughest people. And I feel like during that journey of mine, I feel like was able to look at basketball from a different perspective, and I feel like it did help me grow in a different area.
In what way did you look at it in a different perspective?
Just being on the sidelines and just listening to what the coaches wanted, I felt like I knew what they wanted when I did get back out on the court. I feel like the game slowed down for me a little bit more. Just knowing and settling into, whatever the coaches wanted from me. I just felt more comfortable in a way.
I mean, you were arguably one of the best players in the country, let alone your league, from Kentucky to Providence. We'll get to St. John's obviously here shortly. How much did that rock you that you were at the top, you were one of the best players in the Big East, and then it all comes to a screeching halt. You have to rehab. You don't know what your future holds. You don't know when you're getting back. Where does the NBA fit into all this? How did you process all that?
Yeah, it was really tough in the moment because, I was playing in the middle of a game and just in the blink of an eye, one possession, everything changed. And it was very tough. I mean, it was a lot of long nights and just going back, talking with my parents and just making sure that I was able to, take my time during the process and, get back to a point where I felt comfortable and like myself again. And I don't think a lot of people know how draining the process can be and how tough it actually is to get back to your 100% yourself. And that was pretty much just what I was telling, talking with my parents and my close circle, just making sure I don't rush the process and, taking my time with it so I can get back to that point and where I feel like myself again.
Yeah, take me behind the scenes a little with that, Bryce, because I think so often, you know, we're so numb to, oh, ACL, Achilles, he'll be back in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, not knowing for the player what happens during that time to get to that point where you can come back to the court. Everyone just sort of files it away. Injury, this is the time frame, he'll be back in this amount of time. And we on the outside don't see what happens on the inside of how that process actually happens to get back on the court. What are those days like?
They're very long, first of all. Some days are better than the others. Some days you feel like you're in a great spot, and then the next week you could take a dip in your process and, stuff can go backwards. And you just have to, it's an up and down battle, but you just have to stay focused and, maintain that goal on what you want to do and get back to yourself. But yeah, that process can definitely be tough. Just going up and down, not knowing one day it could be good, the next day it could be bad. I mean, it's a tough battle for sure.
And I would think that, like, if if suddenly there's some swelling or some soreness,
for
you know,
sure.
how often does that, did I re-injure it? What does that mean? I mean, how often do those thoughts go in there?
No, for sure. The mental aspect of it is very tough because you never know like fully like when your knee is gonna be like to that standard. You don't know. It was my first time going through the process. And my trainer was just telling me it's gonna be okay. There is gonna be some swelling, there may be some soreness in there. And when I felt soreness in my knee, I was like, dang, did I do something wrong? Did I tweak it again? So just getting back to that point of like, first getting back onto the court and, taking the bumps and bruises for the first time and falling down on the ground again, you have to get over that mental hurdle of, being and accepting the fact that you're gonna, get hit again and you're gonna be falling on the floor, you're gonna feel some soreness and stuff like that.
And I also think one last thing on this, that when you're going up, whether it's for a layup or a dunk,
Yeah,
um, and that landing,
yeah.
those first few times when that impact hits the court, what's that like? Just feel, oh, okay, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I did it. Like,
Yeah.
just sort of walking on those eggshells.
Yeah, no, it took me a few weeks to actually get comfortable with that again, especially like I would say the last hurdle I had to do was like jumping off of one leg again. And that was since I tore my left ACL, jumping off my left foot, was pretty much like the last hurdle that I had to get comfortable with again. Because it was different. I had to, really start over walking again in the process, and then just getting back to the point and running again, and then eventually jumping off of one foot again. It was just a long process, and I had to, adapt to that again.
So you've had a very interesting career, played for, some great coaches, from Cal to Cooley, English to now Rick Pitino. What have you taken from each one along this journey?
Yep. So starting at Kentucky, I would say that it was my freshman year. I was coming in and kind of a lot of guys that came back from the previous year's team. I was a younger guy on the team, so Kyle pretty much just taught me how to play fast. They play very fast over there, and playing with the high motor. That was the biggest thing I took away from Cal. Um, I would say Coach Cooley, that was my guy. I feel like coming back in there, he pretty much, gave me my confidence back again. Not playing too much at Kentucky, just going to Coach Cooley and him giving me that chance to get back out there and establish my name again was very big for me. And I just appreciate him so much for everything we did at Providence together. Coach English, I was with him, I believe, my 2 years. We kind of had an up and down road with me, tearing my ACL and stuff like that, going through that process. I wish it could have been different, but Coach English taught me, like I said, when I was on the sidelines, just he taught me the first thing was playing off of 2 feet. He wanted me to be more confident playing off 2 feet, being more patient when I get into the lane and stuff like that. And then he was very big in the defense and positioning and stuff like that. So I feel like he did enhance my defense when I was there. And now being here at St. John's, Coach Pitino, once again, his pace is very fast, just like Kyle when I was at Kentucky. He wants you to play with a high motor and stuff like that. But, he also gives you a lot of freedom on the offensive side, which is all a player can ask for. I'm not thinking a lot when I'm out on the court. And I feel like that's when I'm playing my best basketball.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. You are bookending your college career
Yeah,
playing for uh, two Hall of Famers,
for sure.
two of the highest profile outside of, you know, maybe two coaches, maybe Hall and Rupp, and then you got Cal and Pitino. I mean, like, these are two iconic Kentucky names. When you take a step back, like, I'm playing for, Cal and Pitino to bookend my college career.
Yeah,
Not taking anything away from Cooley and English, but on the bookends,
for
what
sure.
do you think of that?
I mean, it's just a blessing. I'm very blessed to be in this position. I used to grow up watching their teams. Like I said, when I was younger, when Coach Pitino was at Louisville, that was one of my favorite teams when he had Peyton Siva, Russ Smith, Montrezl Harrell, and they won the national championship. That was one of my favorite teams to watch. And also going along with like Kentucky, when they had Tyler Ulis, he was from Chicago. So, growing up watching them and the runs that they made, it's just a blessing to be able to, put on a jersey and play for, coaches like that.
All right, so you've had a summer of workouts.
Yeah.
I know everyone got sort of a sneak peek this week. Take me inside, take me behind the curtain. What should we expect from the St. John's team that is probably going to be projected to be a Final Four contender, a Big East title contender, top five team preseason? What are you seeing there on the floor?
Yeah, I feel like we have first all the pieces to do something very special, like you've been saying. I feel like we have, the guards. I feel like what Coach also says we have a pointless or a positionless team. But I feel like we have all the pieces to do something special. We have the height, the size, the strength, and everybody's unselfish. We all play hard. We all play good on defense, and coaches are gonna hold us to that standard. So. I mean, I feel like we're going to be in a great spot once this season starts. We've been going very hard, and I just can't wait for it to start.
And a lot of it is putting the pieces together. That's the new world we live in.
Yeah.
The fact that guys are coming and going. What's happened this summer to where you feel, yeah, players from different teams that have come together, returnees, that this group is already meshing?
Well, we play 5-on-5 every day in practice, so we learn pretty quick of like what each other can do. And there's still some chemistry that needs to be built on the team, but that's gonna come once we get back on campus after our break. But things have been going really well. I mean, the guys, everybody's unselfish. We all play together, and I feel like that's the biggest thing. Nobody's out there, looking for their own. Everybody's playing together, and I feel like that's winning basketball when it's all said and done.
All right. Any names of people that aren't being talked about that you've seen that are going to be contributors?
Um, I would say. The freshman coach has been talking about him a lot. Kelvin Odie, he's been really good in practice. He plays with a high motor. Coach said that he's probably the hardest worker he's had in a long time. Especially being a freshman coming in. Him, um, Ozias Sellers, he's really good. He can shoot the ball really well. So he can space the floor out for us. And I feel like everybody all around, Dylan Mitchell, Zuby, I mean, that goes without saying. Zuby, how hard he plays, how strong he is. I feel like we have all the right pieces to do something special for sure.
At 22 years old, you're a leader. I mean, you
Yeah.
should be. But you weren't there before. So how did that work for you to take on a leadership role without having been there before?
Yeah. I feel like it all goes back to when I was on the sidelines because I had to do something to, still be, with the team and, so they can still hear my voice. So being on the sidelines and, hearing what the coaches were telling the players and stuff like that, and what they were telling me, what they want from the players, and me relaying that message to my teammates, I feel like that really started there, me being a leader. And just coming up to St. John's and being an older player, like you said, I feel like I'm just building off of what I already learned at Providence and being on the sidelines when I was having my injury.
So positionless basketball. For those that haven't seen you play in a couple of years, what are they going to see in terms of your game? You were a stat stuffer. You would contribute in so many different ways. What are people going to see in Bryce Hopkins 2.0 for St. John's?
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much the same player. I shoot more, I feel like now, but I still have that tough mindset. I still like getting to the basket, a lot of contact, but I'm also very versatile. Whatever the team needs, I can do. I feel like I can play make for my teammates, rebound, play defense. I mean, that's a big standard that coach wants for us is to play defense. And whatever we really need, I feel like I can do. And I'm just coming in and with an open mindset, learning and trying to win at the highest level here for my last
Last
year.
two things for you. Tons of games at Madison Square Garden, the majority of games.
Yeah.
You've played in that building before. Now it's going to be your home arena. Non-conference, conference, big time games coming to the Garden. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's the best of the best. I can't wait to, get out there and play in front of them. Like you said, I played there a couple of times, but for it to actually be my home court now, it's kind of crazy. It's a surreal feeling, just how historic the building is. And, when I have came here and played in the building, it's been very electric. And, like I said, for it to be my home court now, I'm just looking forward to it and I can't wait.
And last thing for you, I'm saying I think you guys have that potential. What's being said there in terms of title, Final Four, Big East title? What's being discussed as to the potential of this group inside that locker room?
For sure. It's definitely, been talked about in our locker room and the coaches have talked about it, but coaches just told us to take it one day at a time and, not try to jump the gun. stay focused and, learn every day. And things are going to come and fall into place by how hard we're working in practice every day.
Awesome, Bryce. Can't wait to see you back on the court.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And as always, you can follow all our social media content at the Sideline with a K. Our content appears on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. Check out all the content at the Sideline with a K.